Growing a social following. So a little bit about me. Welcome back. My name is Maria McGowan. I'm with Sociable Media, and I'm really excited to have you all here today. And as you eat your lunch, you can sit back and just listen along. You can take a few notes. But as Joe had mentioned, this is being recorded. And so don't worry so much about that because we have a lot of ground to cover today. And so just enjoy your lunch, and there should be a lot of great takeaways for you. And I'm going to be zooming along in some parts. So here we go. Let's give her. So the first slide. Today we're going to talk about how to identify your target audience. And then we're also going to look at and have an understanding of social media in Atlantic Canada and how it's playing out. Then we're going to look at how to write engaging posts and headlines that get noticed and persuasive words that you can use that will help you get more out of social media. And then lastly, we're going to touch upon how to create graphics and video. So in these four main points, we're going to zoom through today in 45 minutes, and there'll be questions and answers at the end, and I'll be sticking around. So if you have any questions, I'll be, by all means, fire away. So here we go. So how to identify your target audience. Make sure you do your homework first. For example, have a look at LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Facebook has a wonderful platform where you can actually go into your insights, and I think I pointed that out to the last at the last session, where you can look at your insights in Facebook and get an idea of whether it's male versus female, the age, and where they live. And Twitter also has a wonderful analytics platform. Within Twitter, you can look at the same things. You can look at male, female, where they're living, and what their interests are. So it'll give you a little bit of information. For Instagram and LinkedIn, and for all of them actually, go back over the last month or 3 months and see what posts got the most attention, which ones received the most likes, which ones are getting a little bit more traction than others, and figure out why. So it's a matter of just paying attention and being attuned with your social media audience. So do a little bit of homework in that sense and find out who your target audience is online. You already know in person or as a business, but it really doesn't hurt to go in and dig through what's getting the most attention. And if you have access to your website analytics, by all means, have a look at your website analytics as well. That will tell you a lot about where they're coming from, especially in social media, and what pages of their website people are reading and viewing. All right, so the first one I'm going to talk about is influencers. And influencers are kind of like paid endorsements. And if you are on Instagram or on any type of social media platform, you will notice that you know, some superstar or some Hollywood glam model is showing off their latest nutrition bar, you know, or their shirt that they are wearing. Well, they're all paid to do that. Now, influencers don't have to be celebrities. They don't have to be paid. In fact, they are anybody who has a large following. And for example, it could be your past clients who have opened up perhaps a business that is doing really, really well, and they have a really strong voice, and they're being really well noticed. Those are your influencers to help spread the good things that CBDC is doing in your community. So it doesn't hurt to approach them, send them a quick note, reach out to them and tell them, you know, if they are a past client, they will already know who you are. But perhaps they can help you spread the word. You don't have to pay them. Just ask them for a quick favor. Perhaps ask them for a testimonial that you could use on their networks as well. And like I mentioned, ask them to share their CBDC experience if you have influencers. And like I said, does anybody who has a large following, you know, and the exact number could be anywhere from 500 followers and up. You know, 1,000 plus is awesome. I mean, if you can tap into that market, because some of their followers may be future clients for you. Just a thought. So we're going to move into understanding social media in Atlantic Canada. And recently I attended a conference where Giles Crouch was presenting. And if any of you don't know who Giles is, he's an amazing fellow. He is a researcher. He's a webconomist. He likes to proclaim himself as. He does a lot of research on habits online and trends. And he does a lot of work for the United Nations. And wherever he speaks or whenever he speaks, I listen because it gives a lot of great valuable insights. And recently, he talked about the habits of social media users in Atlantic Canada. And in the following slides, I want to share them with you. For example, in Atlantic Canada, when we are on social media, the tool that we are using the most is mobile. 63% are using our smartphones or our phones to look at social media, followed by our laptops at 20%, and then also 17% is our iPad or tablet. So we're looking at it from that angle. And there's a digital divide between the retailer and the customers online, he had mentioned, which is really kind of surprising. But Atlantic Canada is not keeping up online with the consumers who are hungry, and or they're ready to buy. So Atlantic Canadian retailers have to get more into the game, he has said. Atlantic Canadians share groupies rather than selfies, and in fact 8 times more as such as compared to selfies around the world. And I think that probably goes to how social we are. We're a friendly bunch here in Atlantic Canada. So we'd rather just get everyone in the pic than ourselves, perhaps. That's probably it. And purchase decisions. So think of yourself. Many of us are looking at social media first. It's either through an influencer or through a friend. And 20% of us are looking at search engines online. For example, last night I was looking for an optometrist to get my eyes checked. Well, a friend of mine on Facebook shared a picture with a new pair of glasses she had purchased with the bag that it came in with the optometrist's name. And guess what I did? I called that optometrist because it was a friend of mine who I trust and value, and I saw her post on Facebook, and I called and I booked an appointment. So there you go. So that's the power of social media for purchase decisions. So, and lastly, retailers are missing the opportunity of social media in Atlantic Canada. And if you can tap in and help coach your clients to really make them understand the value and the importance of social media to get their word out, especially if they're selling online or if they want to grow and spread their own name. And it's really great to encourage them that way. So that is Atlantic Canada, where social media stands. In the next few slides, I'm going to talk about how to write compelling content, because this is where a lot of people get stuck. And I'm going to throw at you on the next few slides a whole bunch of ideas on where you can come from. And these are all suggestions, so let's get going. So the first one is look at quotes. And that's one that I wrote about myself. You know, a little bit of self-affirmation doesn't hurt along the way. But this is just me being goofy. But I want to mention that humorous, inspiring, motivational quotes always perform well with people. Make sure they are related to CBDC and as you're sharing those quotes. Share stats or data. Share interesting industry statistics or survey results. You know, for example, if you were part of the Kids in the Hall, and you might have remembered that 50 Helen said yes. You know, for example, people like a little bit of interesting, curious things that you can share from a recent survey, business survey, what have you. Engage with your audience. So here are a few examples of fill-in-the-blank posts You know, if I had $1 million, I would, or ask for advice. What would you do? Give them a scenario-based question. Or caption this. Post a photo and ask your fans to come up with creative or funny captions. Or ask questions. Post simple, basic questions that your followers can answer quickly. All great ideas. Another thing is, you know, if you're retweeting and sharing, I think it's a really great idea to look at, you know, there's a lot of great resources that are available out there. For example, last webinar I talked about signing up for e-newsletters where you can get a lot of great content and a lot of great ideas. But look at business journals, for example, in the Atlantic provinces. This is a great one where these guys are very active on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, share some of their stories that they have some articles. Or look at the Telegram. I think this is in PEI. In the Guardian, that is in Newfoundland, and their business sections. And look at the Telegraph Journal. Or perhaps the Nova Scotia-based Halifax Herald or the Chronicle Herald. So whatever you do, whenever you're sharing your retweets and your shares, give an intro to tie it to CBDC. For example, with the Herald Business article here, the NSLC, there's an article there. Perhaps you helped a client recently who's in the craft beer industry in Atlantic Canada. Well, maybe you can kind of give a quick shout out to that craft beer person and say, you know, this company, great to hear that you're doing well, and you know, NSLC is doing great. So you may want to tie in your clients, past, current, and or just about CBDC in general, and link it to that story. It kind of is a nice tie there. Testimonials go a long way, and this is where you can get some quotes, and I'm sure you probably have collected them. I made this one up. But for example, if you can tie it in to how your organization gave value to a local entrepreneur, that would be very valuable. Take a trip down memory lane. These two pictures were taken from the Halifax Bridges Commission from their Twitter account. And when they said whenever they share retro images, it just goes viral. It just blows up. People love historic images. They like to see the past and look back and reminisce or share some memories. So if you have any, share them. Take a trip to the local library or take a quick snapshot to, you know, go to a museum. Make sure you source the image as well. But people like to have that look back and then also, you know, as they look forward. When you're speaking in your posts, it's great to speak directly to the reader. So for example, you could ask, do you want to be your own boss or buy a business? You know, you can ask and then you can send a link to, you know, purchasing a business. Or, you know, do you have a succession plan for your business? This makes the post more personal to them because everybody thinks, what's in it for me? And so if you can apply yourself in that thinking, you'll probably get a lot more interest. People like numbers. For example, 79% of people do this in the car, you know, and then have the link to create some interest. Or these 3 items are flying off our shelves right now. If you can add numbers or percentages when you're sharing surveys or what have you, people tend to like that. And as well, also, I'm going to talk quickly about this and that and people. So for example, people who do this are more likely to do that. And to talk a little bit further, I'm going to talk about the word people speaks to the reader's need to belong, because we all want to belong to something and be a part of something big. And the word this and that, it creates curiosity. So with all the noise out there and all the and all the posts that are out there on social media, you know, I think it's a fun way to think of it that way. Try to relate to the people because everyone wants to belong. Another example is be casual. As you all know, people are kind of tired these days of the corporate speak. Millennials are coming, into the realm now, and there are a different set of interests. And as well, I think businesses are relaxing the corporate speak talk and speaking more on normal, not so business-like terms. And I think you all know what I'm talking about, because it is social media. Social media is not a place for corporate speak. Say that for the AGM and other, important reports that need to get done. But for the most part on social media, write like you are talking to a friend. And instead of writing 10 ways to avoid the McDonald Bridge, think of 10 ways to avoid the McDonald to save you time. It's almost like you're helping them and do a favor. An example, I underlined the word time. People will do anything to save time these days. We're all maxed out. We're all very busy people. We have kids, we have work, we have business, and anything that you can do to help people save time. Trends say that people really value that a lot. People like lists, and example of anything that's in point form is awesome. So because they're easy to digest, and people just gravitate more towards them. For example, 5 tips to organize your workspace. Or for another really interesting thing to point out is odd numbers perform better than even numbers. So think 5, 7, 3, 9. I think 9 is an odd number or an even number. I can't remember. But think of odd numbers. They tend to perform a lot better in terms of statistics. And the number 7 works well in headlines. That's somehow a magical number. I got that from HubSpot. They did all their research, so as to why, I really can't say. I just, HubSpot said that through their research, number 7 did better. All right, so we're also going to move into give a little bit of mystery, perhaps send a few hints along to your readers and your followers. So for example, one of our customers did this to his backyard and saved $2,000. Give a little bit and then also share the URL at the end of this post as well. So it's great to give a little bit of mystery as well, because that makes people want to click further onto your website to find out more information. Posts that are emotionally driven is a great idea, because we're all human, we're all emotionally driven, and if you can kind of think of why should people read your post that you're going to post on Facebook, think a little bit more before you post. What's in it for them? How can this bring value? How to helpline, how to posts are helpful as well. So try to think of ways that what's in it for them, not so much you're selling. People aren't getting into the sell type of post. They're getting it more, flip it around as to thinking, why would somebody want to come to CBDC? All right, so we're going to go around here. I went to Outbrain, which is a really great research company as well. And in the next couple of slides, they mentioned superlatives. And a lot of people are not swaying towards the positive as much anymore. People are a little bit more reluctant to believe anything that they read, and they're a little bit more skeptical. And I think it's just the way that we're all so bombarded, and people aren't taking things at face value as much anymore. So here's what I mean. So headlines with negative superlatives, for example, never or worst, performed actually 63% better, which is fascinating. And then those that contained positives, like always and best, didn't do as well. Keep that in mind. And then on the next slide, adjectives and power words, where I'm going to ask you to add ones that create interest. And here's an example. Words that say beautiful, brilliant, effortless, essential, fun. Those do really well. And imagine these are all very much emotional based as well. Horrifying, incredible, strange, useful, valuable, I think the word valuable is a very big trigger word these days that's being used. So if all, keep these past two slides in mind when you're creating your posts. And I mentioned this earlier before, keep it simple. Write a captivating headline that's scannable and easy to digest. We're all busy and we're all zooming through on our phones. Our phones are small screen spaces, so people are scrolling a lot faster than they are on a laptop or on a computer. So keep it small, easy to digest. Keep it simple. So for example, in keeping it short, focus on keeping the title under 70 characters. And this is so it doesn't get cut off in search engine results. Because social media posts, Facebook and Twitter, they do show up in social media. They do show up in Google search engine results and other search engines as well. So if you keep it under 70 characters, it's pretty great. For example, on Twitter, and this has been studied by HubSpot, headlines between 8 to 12 words in length got the most Twitter shares on average. And on Facebook, headlines with either 12 to 14 words received the most likes. And this is through their research that they have done. And they're a huge research company, and they're a wonderful resource to look into. So keep that in mind when you're writing your headlines and growing your social following. As I mentioned earlier, emotional impact is important. And concluding, you have to think, what's in it for them? Does your post add value to them? Does it save them time? Does it make them feel great? Does it solve a problem? Or does it have them asking for more? And I think it's a really great idea to have them asking for more. If you can add a link, it's call to action at the end of all of your posts, whether it's to a section on your website or to an email or to a phone number, I highly recommend with all CBDC posts that you have a call to action so people can find out right away. Because if someone is on their phone, and they can click on it right away and give you a call if they see it in their newsfeed. All right, so I'm just going to zoom on. So now we're going to be moving into graphics, images, and video. And we're going to look at, a lot of you already know that there is a logo for CBDC, and it's available in this document here. It's the Visual Identity Standards Manual, and I believe that's shared to all of you. You all have a really great idea of what your logo looks like, and also the recommendations for how to use it, when to use it. An example, looking at it, the top one here, the two-color orientation is the preferred logo to use in all of your print materials and the advertising materials as well. And so keep that in mind with social media. So for example, I put this together myself, you know, an example post that could be shared on Facebook or Twitter. And what it says on the bottom here is, we help this contractor grow his biz, learn how. It's very vague and general. You may want to say, we helped, and name the actual contractor, to, you know, and you may want to spell it out a little better. But your call to action is there in the learn how. You know, what do you want the person to do after they read this or see this image? Because in all of the images or all of the posts that I create on Facebook and Twitter, I like to have an image that is associated with it. And here's another one, an image with the logo in the bottom right-hand corner. The bottom left, right-hand, you know, and the four corners, if you can put the logo, that would be awesome. But for example, see the guide for font and color information, because there are certain colors that need to be used in all of your materials. And I will get to more about this in a second. What I use is, I'm all about free, and this is Canva. I don't know if any of you have heard about Canva, but it's a wonderful design tool that's available online. It's all web-based. It's in the cloud. And you can create you can create social media posts. You can do Instagram posts. You can also do PowerPoint presentations on this, and it can all be saved to PDF. I love it. You can load the CBDC logo in there, and you can resize all of your images for social media in here, and it's sized correctly for the medium. And so that's Canva. What I'm going to be jumping into now is talking about photos and videos as well. And this is Warren, my sister's cat. Loves the fireplace this time of year to keep warm, and I just wanted to share him with you. And here are a few tips on taking photos, because we all have our smartphones. We're all attending conferences and events. So if you're taking a picture, here are a few things to keep in mind. Don't center the object in the middle of the frame. Try to keep it off to the side a little bit. As you can see what I'm doing here, the face of the cat is to the left or to the right, but in this case it's to the left, and I can put text to the right. Off-center is much better. It creates a little bit of flow as well. Choose an unusual or interesting angle. For example, I got on the floor and took a picture of the cat this way. I got at the cat level to take this picture. Use natural light whenever possible. Even on the new iPhones, the flash isn't that great. So if you can use as much natural light, do so. And keep in mind the rule of thirds with photos. It also works with design as well. And with social media, it also works the rule of half as well. As you can see, this is half is text, half is an image on this slide that we're looking at right here. So that's a little bit of tips on taking photos with your phone or with your camera. One place I love to go, as I mentioned, I'm all about the free, is pexels.com. I love it. In fact, most of the images for this webinar right here were from Pexels. And it's a place to get free tools and images, and it's copyright free. You don't have to worry about a license in any case. So if you're doing a PowerPoint or if you're doing anything in that way, Pexels is a great resource for you. Now we're going to move on to how to use video in social media. And it's amazing how video is growing so much. I mean, think of yourselves on Facebook or on Twitter, how many videos are shared across the platform. And because it's going to rise, don't let video intimidate you so much. It's really not that bad to put a short video together. And I'll show you what I mean. If you're editing a video, you could have an image, let's say you could have 5 images. You can make a video from those 5 or 10 images. It'd be almost like a PowerPoint slideshow with images or with text involved. Whatever your video is, make sure it's short and sweet. 30-second videos let you share more information than one picture alone. It captures the interest. And keep in mind, we're all going 1,000 miles an hour, so if you can get a video that will capture somebody for a few seconds or 30 seconds, more power to you. And it's been studied for the video length, for example, on what works. A lot of us, if I see a video that is 5 minutes or more, I'm probably not going to watch it till its end. Or if I see a video that's half an hour, it's just going to be a little bit too much. So for Facebook, it's about 120 minutes, or about 2 minutes. That's in length. On Twitter, 30 seconds and under works really well. And on Instagram, around 60 seconds. That seems to be a good length of time that it works. So these have all been studied. We all have short attention spans, and the more impact the video will have that adds and creates more value, the better. Free video tools, as I mentioned earlier, I'm all about the free. Moovly is a free resource, M-O-O-V-L-Y. It's where you can create, and it's in the cloud, and it's where you can add, say, those 5 to 10 images, and you can make them into a video. You can have some graphics pulling into them. You could do a voiceover or not. You could have it go into music. So you could have a quick little video put together if you wanted to. Just throwing it out there. And I also want to teach you a little bit about a social media style guide that I'm putting together for you all. And I'm working with Joe, and it's going to give you some ideas on the following. So a little bit of a sneak preview. We're going to look at proper capitalization and spelling for services, how to reference clients or customers, for example, tagging on Facebook and also Twitter as well, when to use acronyms. We're going to look at some words to avoid using altogether on social media, a little bit of a guidebook there. We're going to look at some image and design guidelines, which is a big one, to make sure that everyone has perhaps access to a shared library. All these things are going to be rolled out in the next little while, but just we're working behind the scenes to make it as easy as possible for you all to share content, to find content, and also give a little bit of structure and continuity between all the CBDC networks in Atlantic Canada. So you all have a similar look and feel when you are doing your social media activities. And it just adds to the reputation. And I think a lot of you will probably enjoy it because it will take a lot of the pressure and the worry off if you have some things readily available for you. So the key takeaways from today, I want you to think about how you can add value to your posts. I want you to share useful content and think of your target audience and what they will find useful. And then add visuals. Add images and video when you can. If you have a photo library that you have, share those. And make sure you have some video. It doesn't have to be homegrown video. It could be video that you're sharing from another resource. And with that in mind, I'm going to open up the floor and to get you to ask some questions. I'm going to press the escape button here so I can see you, because before I couldn't see you. All right. So Hexel says free stock video as well. Yes. Exactly, it does. It's a wonderful resource. I haven't used the free stock video yet, but it is a great it is a great one to look at. Another one is through Canva as well, has free photos that you can share. They don't have video yet, but photos are growing. Are there any other questions that anybody has that they'd like to share?
Thanks, Maria. Just jump in there for a second. Yeah, folks, if anybody has any questions, you can type it in the chat, or you can unmute your line and feel free to ask questions or make some comments on what you've seen today, and love to hear from you.
Chart is a good program for making infographics. Exactly. I haven't played around with that one, but I've heard about that one, which is wonderful, Mark, and thanks for pointing that out. And as well, Canva does infographics as well. And those infographics are wonderful to share on social media and also presentations as well, because they are highly visual. And like I mentioned, people like numbers, they like a point form, and infographics are wonderful that way. Nope, you don't use infographics, that's fine. They're a little bit, they take a little bit of time to put together, and but if you can find one, and we can make some for CBDC, that's all the better. Does anybody have any questions on what they would like to see in the social media guide that's being put together? Is there anything that people would like to see shared within that document? I'll leave a minute for people to type in their questions. Voice and tone are important, Michaela, exactly. And as well, the voice and tone of the CBDC you know, it's good to be friendly. It's good to be not too casual, but, you know, business casual, if you think of it that way. And we'll talk about that. I think it's a wonderful point to get that across. So we'll put that together. Jean-Francois mentioned, do infographics need to be brief? I think so. I mean, you don't want to have it like an Excel sheet where there's a lot of information. I think keep in mind that people are scanning and just want to get the gist of the infographic, especially if it's shared on social media. Maybe if you have a detailed infographic, it might be best suited for a PowerPoint presentation where you can speak to it a little bit more in depth. But for social media needs, keep it brief. And a content calendar template, Sarah and Victoria, that's wonderful. We can definitely add that, kind of give a how to put those together. And content calendars, I tend to use the generic kind. It's really wonderful to, for example, for clients that I work with, I know in the take of 1 week what I need to be speaking about, and when I'm putting the posts together, I know that I need to have 3 posts that are retweets. I need to have 4 posts that have helpful information, maybe it's sharing recipes, what have you, and the other ones are more the sell. Because if you remember, the past webinars that I had spoken about was following the 80-20 rule or the 70-30 rule, where it's not all about selling. It's about being the reciprocity principle, so you're following that. So I think this is all really great questions. Perhaps something on automation. Social media takes time, so I use tools like Buffer. Oh, Buffer's great. To sit down and do all my posts and schedule them throughout the week. That's excellent, Michaela. I'm a big fan of Buffer as well. I also use Sprout Social and Hootsuite. And Buffer has a free model, but I think you have to pay, I think it only allows you 10 posts. But Buffer is great. If you can do automation, I think that would be wonderful because it takes a lot of the headache away from thinking at your desk, what am I going to do today? So I think it's great. Definitely automation. Put that one in there. Okay, Mark, you had a question. I'm in a marketing group, and earlier this week we discussed increasing your followers. The top 3 things that came out of the discussion was a call to action. Tag, like, if, exactly. Tag businesses or people, shows in their timeline, gives you access to their followers and friends, and hashtags becoming more common on Facebook. And I think that's great, Mark. I mean, in terms of sharing on, you know, how to tag people, it's huge, especially on Twitter. And unfortunately, we talked about automation a minute ago, but if you were going to be scheduling something, a post, and you wanted to tag people, you can only do it within the body of the tweet. You can't do it in the image. And let me show you, and if I'm still sharing my screen here, which I believe I am, let's have a quick peek. I'll show you really quick. Let's see if you can still see. So I'm going to go into Twitter here. Let's say I'm going to be writing a post here. And let's see, I'm going to be adding an image. So let's add a photo. And let's say it's going to be a photo of this person here. And let's say this is me in Hawaii. And then I'm going to maybe tag somebody like Hawaii. Maybe I'll tag Halifax Breaking. I'm not going to send this tweet, by the way. But as soon as I tweet this out, they'll get that in their newsfeed. But another way to do it is when you use an image with a tweet, you can click on who is in this photo, and I can do perhaps this fellow Joe. I can do up to 10 people. I can do Marie McGowan. I can do myself if I wanted to. I could do a whole bunch of other people if I wanted to. So as soon as I click tweet, Hallie Breaking and the 10 people who I share this tweet with will all be notified that were within this tweet. And that is a wonderful way of growing your following, but also getting your word out there. I'm going to delete that all out there. Let's say if we wanted to go on Facebook, we can do the same thing on Facebook. Let's say I wanted to say exact same thing. So say hi, you know, do an @ symbol if I wanted to. I can do the exact same thing in my post. So those are all wonderful. So that is it. I'm going to discard that post. So that is it in a nutshell. Oh, I received another message. Neat. So yeah, I mean, Twitter is great that way. It's just you can't do it in buffer, unfortunately. You can tag them in the body, but not in the image. And same goes for Facebook too. You can tag all kinds of people. Wonderful. Same with Instagram. And if any of you are on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a wonderful platform. Has anybody noticed that LinkedIn has changed in recent weeks, their look and their layout? It's really quite interesting how they've made a little bit more streamlined for everyone. And I'm a big fan of LinkedIn for growing my business. It's a great way of talking to people in the business world. But are any of you on LinkedIn? Say yes or no. Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And how often are you guys on LinkedIn? Do you post or do you mainly check in? How many times in a month or a week do you check LinkedIn? Profile when I'm looking for work. Yeah, that's right. And that's good to keep your profile always up to date because a profile is where recruiters are going to be looking for you, and also you know, where your people are going to be looking at what you're up to these days. Yes, Mark, not as often as I should. I try to go in about weekly. I do post to LinkedIn as well. You can, by all means, you can follow me. And so I think it's wonderful to go in and have a quick look around LinkedIn because it's where it adds more value to your people in terms of you sharing interesting stories that are related to your personal profile, your business profile, that sort of thing. It's great for other people to write reference letters about you. Exactly. People can also give you a shout out as well. It's a recommendation. You can use that feature on LinkedIn and that is where on social media people like to listen to what other people have to say. And as I mentioned in this presentation, more people are apt to follow or trust the words out of their peers than they are out of a business or a corporation, which is why influencers are doing so well right now, because it's person to person instead of business to person. And it's also important to have a complete profile with a picture. Exactly, Mark. It is important to have that. If you can fill in as much of your LinkedIn image as possible, the more power to you. Exactly. And let me see, what other questions did you guys have outside of growing your followers, where you're tagging people, where you're delivering valuable content? Are you looking for more ideas? Do you have a challenge right now? Do you have an event that's coming up that you may need help with? Do any of you use Facebook events for creating, for promoting an event and an invite list? Yes. Yeah. They're wonderful. Are your tips and advice relevant to blogs as well? They are. In fact, if you, for example, if I have a blog that I have through social media, and whenever I do a post, I probably will have about 10 Facebook posts from that one blog post. And all you have to do is reword it a different way and share it, you know, over a period of a month or so, by all means. I mean, if your blog has valuable and interesting content, or give a teaser image, you know, following the tips and advice that I just shared with you, you know, by all means, promote your blog. And as well, go back in time. If you have a blog post that is 2 years old, you can easily brush that off and repurpose it, or have a quick look at it and maybe update it a little bit if it's a little dated. But I love going back through old blogs and repurposing the content there. And like I said, from one blog post, I can get about 10 Facebook posts. I can get a whole bunch of tweets out of it. You can really make it go a long way. And does anybody else out there have blogs that you write to? And how often do you write to them or post to them? No? No blogs? Do you follow any blogs? I'm sure you probably do. So if you find, and that goes with a lot of things, because I mean, it goes, if you have a personal blog or if you're following a blog, you can probably get a lot of great content from one blog post. You can probably get about, you know, 3 or 4. All you have to do is say it a different way and spread it over a period of weeks. And okay, Ash, how many posts a week would you recommend to be posted? Can several blogs a week be overwhelming for followers? Yes, it can be. And that is where it's quality over quantity. And think of your blogs. For example, I believe I have it somewhere written down, but Giles spoke about blogs in Atlantic, Canada. And a lot of blogs, the trend is to go more visual and less text with blogs. And I think it was, I want to say 250 words was the length of the blogs. Very short, very sweet, and a couple of images, and that is it. So keeping that in mind, several blogs a week, you could maybe probably spread them out over time. I'd say 1 or 2 a week, but even that, you know, that at that pace, if you have lots of, if you're bubbling with content or bursting with content, by all means, churn them out while you have the energy. I used to do that, and then I slowly crashed and burned, and I just do 1 every couple of weeks now. But if it's a topic that you're passionate about and that you're interested in, keep going at it. Just make sure you're sharing valuable, helpful content to your followers, which I'm sure you probably are. But that's a wonderful resource of sharing your blog. And I would say 1 to 2 times a week would probably be fine. That's what I would recommend, along with other content on top of that. And like I said, go back in time and brush off some older blog posts and update them before you share them. And then that will save you a lot of time there. All right. How's everybody doing now? You're welcome. Okay. I hope everyone had great lunches. And, you know, I hope your soup didn't get cold and you're able. But this is being recorded, everybody. So make sure when Joe has, oh, leftover spaghetti. Good. I didn't have my lunch yet, so I have to figure out what I'm going to have, scrounge through the cupboard. But, yeah, this is being recorded. And I zoom through a lot of parts. And so freeze frame a lot. I love researching the content here because it's great information, and it's all based on fact, and it's based on a lot of homework that I did.